Hi, my name is Chelsea Ram. In this video, I am going to be sharing the top 5 books that have most changed my perspective on life. I will be sharing these books in no particular order. They are all awesome, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So first book I want to mention is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So the first time I heard about this book was actually from Oprah. I'm a big Oprah fan, and this book, A New Earth, is Oprah's top #1 favorite book of all time. So I felt like I just had to read it as an Oprah fan. When I read it, it genuinely changed my life. This book is all about the ego of the human being and how we are shaped by our environment and society to feed the ego. It talks a lot about who we are. We are not the construct of the self that we have created or that society has imposed on us and we have adopted. This book helps us to distance ourselves from our egos and to open ourselves to a higher self. It helps us to stop creating our own suffering and obsessing over the past and what the future might be, and to put ourselves in the now. These are some thoughts that I had when I was reading the book in combination with some quotes that I wrote down from the book. Every human being carries ego. Ego is the root cause of fear, greed, and desire for power. You can value and care for things, but whenever you get attached to them, you will know it's the ego. You are never really attached to a thing, but a thought that has I, me, or mine in it. You are the awareness that is aware of the ego inside. Making yourself right and others wrong is one of the principal egoic mind patterns. Content of the ego may change, but the structure that keeps it alive does not. The thought forms, I need, I want, I must have, me, mine, not enough, they are not the content, but the structure of the ego. Defining yourself through thought is limiting yourself. Whenever you feel inferior or superior to anyone, that is the ego within you. The message in this book is so valuable, so important, and I like spreading it, so I would absolutely recommend. The next up on my list of books that changed my perspective in life is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you're familiar with business books and you have read quite a few business books, you probably have read this book. It is one of the most essential reads when you're in the business world, when you're interested in financial growth and financial well-being. This book is a great read if you are interested in building a solid financial future, if you are in business, if you want to get into business, starting your own business, if you are interested in understanding how money works. I recommend this book to pretty much everyone, regardless if you are interested in finances or not. Money plays a huge role in today's society, and it's a great thing to understand. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad is an easy read, a good introduction book to understanding finances. Pulling out my handy dandy book of notes, I'm going to read some of the most important lessons I got from this book. First is that the poor and the middle class work for money, the rich have money work for them. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes that money out. Always, period. There is no exceptions. The single most powerful asset we have is our mind. The rich buy assets. The poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets, such as the home you're living in. You might call that an asset, but that's actually a liability. To be financially secure, you need to mind your own business. It revolves around your asset claim. Your business can be real estate, stocks, companies that don't require your presence, etc. But these are your business, and this is how you become financially secure. Investors who create investments and create money find an opportunity everyone else has missed. They know how to raise money, and they can be creative, and they know how to organize smart people. Cynics criticize and winners analyze. It's all in your head what determines what's in your hands. Don't play it safe, play it smart. The key to financial freedom is a person's ability to convert earned income into passive and/or portfolio income. Wise investors' profits are made when they buy, not sell. The next book that changed my perspective fully is called Factfulness by Hans Rosling. So I heard about this book for the first time from Bill Gates. Bill Gates puts out different book lists all the time, and Factfulness is on quite a few of his top recommended book lists. It's actually one of his favorite books, if I'm remembering correctly. I know that this was on a lot of his top lists. That's why I picked it up, and I am so glad that I did. Okay, so I just Googled Hans Rosling on my computer, so you know a little bit about the author. Hans Rosling was a Swedish physician, academic, and public speaker. He was a professor of international health at Karolinska Institute and was the co-founder and chairman of the Gapminder Foundation, which developed the Trendylizer software system. So he's done a lot. He has a lot of accolades and all of that. Factfulness is a book that points out 10 main ways we are wrong about the world, and it gives very detailed reasons as to why we are wrong about these things. They're ways that we structure our belief around the world, and it actually talks about why things are better in the world than we typically think. I took so many notes on this book. It was just so good. I color-coded my notes and wrote them all out. There are a lot of things that I pulled out of this book, but some of the main points that I still carry around with me and have changed my perspective of the world include the fact that we typically have a size instinct, and that often a lonely number may seem impressive. So if someone tells you that they went outside 900 times, but it might actually not be impressive when put in perspective. So if someone tells you they went outside once, that might be a lot, that might be a little bit. Another thing I learned is the fear instinct. We evolved to overestimate risk because frightening things get our attention because of evolution, but these are not necessarily the most risky things. And it actually might be harming us by distorting our worldviews. A good example of this is that more than 1,000 people died from escaping a nuclear leak that killed no one. Okay, like they just trampled each other. It's the fear that actually ends up killing us sometimes. We also have the gap instinct, which makes us think that there is an us and then there is a them, and we have that combined with the generalization instinct, which means that we're generalizing, and we often generalize whole cultures or types of people, and these generalizations are often not true at all. He also talks about the destiny instinct and the idea that these innate characteristics determine the destinies of people, religions, cultures, countries, etc. And we often think of these things as unchanging and unchangeable. That's not the case at all. Now, I just told you some main points that I pulled out of his book, but the way Hans Rosling frames these points and explains them in such great detail and depth with multiple really meaningful examples is incredible. And if you were to read this book, you will understand everything that I just said, plus more, in such great detail. And it definitely affects the way I take information in when I look at information now in my life. And you can definitely tell Hans Rosling is a statistician? Is that how you say it? Statistician, I'm not sure. He is a statistician, so not an esthetician, but a statistician. It helps you to understand how you have been interpreting information wrong and values and numbers and sayings in your life wrong, and how you can interpret information that you are given in your life in a more accurate way that allows you to make decisions that are more accurate. The next book on my list is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. What can I say about this book? Barack Obama is just such an awesome guy. He is so knowledgeable and smart and funny. He has a great personality, and this all shines through within this book. A Promised Land is a memoir that Barack Obama wrote after he was done his presidency in the United States. There is just so much in this book. It outlines Barack Obama's entire life with a focus on his work in politics. Of course, that was a major part of his life. What I love about this book is that it wasn't just a memoir. It wasn't just telling us what happened in his life. it taught me so much more. It opened my eyes so much. I have a much deeper respect for politicians and for the president of the United States and for the heads of countries in general. The heads of state are dealing with so much, and that's something that I knew, but I didn't really realize to what extent you really have to know everything and make decisions as a politician, as a head of state. It's pretty crazy the types of situations you have to deal with when you have that kind of power and that kind of knowledge of the whole system and how the whole system works, where you live and the government systems. What comes through this book is how, as a political figure, you really have to balance what you think is good for your citizens with what you think is good for the citizens of the entire world, in addition to not being able to disclose everything, not because you're not allowed to necessarily, but because it's going to have such a major effect on society. So you really need to think about how all of the actions that you take and everything that you say is going to be perceived, and you have to think about the media, and you have to think about all these things, and it's so complex. Like, everything you do when you are a figurehead in the political world, specifically like the president of the United States, is criticized heavily. I mean, it's so important that you don't say the wrong thing and accidentally cause a huge scare, which leads to a decline in the stock market or the economy and people getting stressed out, and all the media is running lots of stuff. Okay, the garbage truck is just decided to drive right in front of the window today. All right, it's a fairly big book, and I ended up listening to it on Audible because there's the audiobook version, and Barack Obama actually reads the whole thing, and it's pretty long. It's 30 hours, the audiobook. That's long, considering a lot of books are 3 hours, but it's 30 hours in length, and Barack Obama speaks it to you. So it was like Barack Obama was telling me his life, which is why I decided to listen to it on Audible. So Barack Obama spent a lot of his time before his presidency going from state to state, talking to people of different classes, of different everything under the sun. He did tours around the states and would talk to people. And one of the main lessons that he learned from going around and speaking to so many diverse groups of people was how everyone wants the same thing. We all desire the same thing in life. We want our kids to be safe and well fed. We want the planet to be healthy, and for our families to be healthy, and to have friends, and to have security and safety, and make sure that we are living and thriving the best we can. Like, these are things we all want. It's in common, these common values that everyone tends to hold. But it's our experiences and the context that we were born into, whether that be a certain state or a particular culture or a particular gender, whatever that may be, that shapes how we view our capabilities to actually get the things that we want. Our experiences and our context shape what we think we need in order to achieve our common goal. So that's where we are different from each other. And I think that is such a beautiful message that many people know, but they don't know how to put into words. And Barack Obama is just such a good writer. He is so good with his words, and this book is just such a good read. It was so easy to read, even though I listened to it. It was obviously easy to listen to Barack Obama speaking to me, but it was just such a good book. And actually, I don't have it on me right now, but before I read this book, I read his previous book that he had written, which is called The Audacity of Hope. And The Audacity of Hope really hones in to this message that everyone has the same values, and it's just the way that we think we can actually accomplish those values are different. He wrote the book, The Audacity of Hope, prior to becoming the president, whereas A Promised Land is so much bigger and has so much more information in there, but that is another main theme, and that changed my perspective on life quite a bit. Next is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It explains very well how humans were not always the most powerful beings and how we evolved. It gives a good perspective on what culture really is, what money really is, and how we are living in this world in which our social constructs are what has allowed us to profit and to live in the way we do, and how it's the capability of human beings to create social constructs and ideas that everyone adopts and that everyone abides by, which has allowed us to become as powerful as we are. That's what sets us apart from other animals and makes us conclude that we are more powerful than them. For now. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe, I don't know. We never know what the future holds. This book is just a really great book for everyone to read. Honestly, it was not an easy read, I'm not gonna lie. It was more difficult, but that you can always listen to the audiobook and just take it a page at a time. Why this book is so valuable for everyone is because we're all humans and we all live in this world, and it's good to understand where we came from so that we can make informed decisions in the future. So those were the 5 books that most changed my perspective on life. I have 2 runners-up, 2 books that tied for runners-up. They're completely different from each other, so that's interesting. The first book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Coelho? I don't know how to pronounce his name. This book is a super popular book. It's actually a fiction book, the only fiction book I have on this list. Why this book is super powerful is because it has a great message rooted throughout the book, which is basically that every human being is part of this one consciousness and that we all have a purpose, and that our calling is to follow that purpose and to lead us where our heart is going, because where we are being pulled internally is where we're meant to be. Very enjoyable read. So I'd recommend that. And then my second runner-up is called The Moment of Lift, and that is by Melinda Gates. This came out recently, and I listened to this audiobook version as well because it was read by Melinda Gates. It's about lifting women up, specifically in developing countries such as Africa. Melinda Gates and Bill Gates do a lot of work, but Melinda Gates in particular focuses a lot of her time and energy on helping women in developing countries. And this book focuses on the idea that contraception is so important for women, especially in developing countries, who, if they do not have access to contraception, often get pregnant way more than their bodies can handle, which leads to more poverty because they can't feed their children. Children are dying, and it just leads to an entire cycle of poverty. But when we allow these women the opportunity to have contraception, oftentimes, especially because the choice to have sex is not their choice, it's the choice of their husband or whoever they're with, they're able to control how many children they have, which allows them to end this cycle of poverty. And The Moment of Lift is talking about that moment in which a woman is able to lift her family out of poverty. And that is it. Those are the 5 most perspective-changing books for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this. And as always, please comment down below if you have anything to say, and also let me know what books have changed your perspective. I'm always looking for my next big read. I'm constantly reading, constantly have an audiobook on the go while reading a different book on the go. So I'm always looking and interested to hear what other people are reading. Comment down below and I will be sure to check that out. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.